Hey guys, so this final video is all about testing yourself and seeing what you've learned. So what I've done is I have made 4 problems for you to solve using Python. I'm going to explain each of the problems, and after I explain each problem, I'm going to display my solution to it. Now, of course, I don't want you to immediately look at my solution. I want you to pause the video, think about the problem on your own, and then try to solve it using Python. So if you get stuck, you can of course always refer to my solution, but the best thing would be for you to try programming on your own. So let's dive right into it.
So, the first problem that I have for you is called the egg carton problem. And how this works is you have to write an algorithm that takes the number of eggs to be boxed as an input from the user. And then the algorithm outputs the number of cartons needed to box the eggs, given that one carton fits 12 eggs. Now, it's okay if the last carton is not full. So, if you have perhaps 23 eggs, you would need 2 cartons. If you had 40 eggs, you would need 4 cartons. So, the algorithm should allow the user to input a number that is the number of eggs to be boxed, and you have to output the number of cartons needed to box those eggs. So now, why don't you go ahead and pause the video and try to think of how you would achieve this. And once you're done, come back to see my solution. Okay, so this is my solution. What I've done is I've initialized the variables. So in this case, there was only one, which was cartons. And this would keep track of the number of cartons needed. Then I got the user input of the number of eggs needed and stored it in the variable eggs. And lastly, I used a conditional statement to check if the eggs are a multiple of 12 by using the modulus function. And if they were not a multiple of 12, then I added 1 to the number of cartons that would be needed. And the number of cartons that would be needed could be found by flooring the number of eggs provided by the user by the number 12. And, well, if it was a multiple of 12, then I didn't need to add 1. And then at the end, I just formatted it in a really nice way to print it. So if I actually go ahead and I run this program, enter the number of eggs, let's say I enter 37. So it says you need 4 cartons to box 37 eggs. And that's how this works. Now, let's move on to example number 2. What you have to do is you have to get the user to input a number and then output the number of digits in the number that the user provided. So, for example, if the user provides number 323, then you have to output 3 because number 323 has 3 digits in it. So I'll give you a tip of how you can do this. You're going to need to use a loop, and you want this loop to run until you have counted every single digit. Now, to count every single digit, you can actually get rid of the last digit by using the floor function. So this is all. These are my tips for you to help you. So now you can pause the video and come back when you're ready to see the solution. Okay, so this is the solution. First, I get the user input and I store it in the variable num. Next, if the number is a 0, so over here, if it's a 0, then I output 1 digit. The number has 1 digit. Else, if it's not a 0, then I initialize the variable digits to keep track of the number of digits in the number. Then I make an alias of num and store it in the variable x. And then I say while x is greater than 0, digits count increases by 1, and then this line removes the last digit of the number. Then finally, I print the output, or the digit count. Now, if this seems a little bit confusing because you're not able to grasp some of the concepts, do feel free to go back to the earlier videos and relearn them. So if I go ahead and I run this, if I enter a random number, there you go. 393448392 has 9 digits. Problem number 3. Now, problem number 3 is called Vowel Count. And what you have to do is you have to get the user to input a string of any length, count the number of vowels in the string, both capital and lowercase, and output the number of vowels that you have counted. So this requires you to use your knowledge of string functions and how strings are actually arrays. So pause the video, see if you can figure out how to write an algorithm for this, and come back when you're ready. Okay, so this is my solution. First, I get the user input, so I get the user to input a string. Then, I initialize the variables. So vowels is just a string that I will use to compare. And vowel count will keep track of the number of vowels in the string inputted by the user. Now, using a for loop, I will check each character in the string to check and see if it's a vowel. So character, char, will hold each character in the string. And if character is in the string vowels, it means that this character is a string. So I will increase my vowel count by 1. At the end of it, I will output the vowel count. All I have done is formatted it so that the print statement is really nice. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's say my word or sentence is hello world. Well, hello world has 3 vowels, which is correct because it has E, O, and O. Now, problem number 4 is called vector sum. So in this problem, you have to ask the user to input numbers for array 1 and then separate numbers for array 2. If there are the same number of items are inputted for array 1 and array 2, then calculate the vector sum. So what is the vector sum? Well, for example, if this is array 1, so the user inputted 22 and 2, and this is array number 2, where the user inputted 33 and 3, the vector sum would be the sum of the first digit of the first array and the first item of the second array, and it would be stored in a new array. So 22 plus 33 is 55. Now, you want to do that for every element in the array and store it in a new array. However, if the length of the arrays, so if array 1 and array 2 are not the same length, then you have to output that the vector sum is not possible. So for this, you're going to need to use arrays, obviously, and you're going to need to understand how to append items to arrays. You're going to need to iterate over an array using a for loop. So this is my solution for the vector sum problem. So first, I input all the items for array 1. So I declare an empty array called A. Then this loop is just for inputting all the items in the array A. Then I do the same thing for the second array, and this array is called B. Now, after I've gotten the user input, I check if the length of the arrays are equal through this conditional statement. Now, if they aren't the same, I print vector sum is not possible because lists are not of same size. Now, otherwise, if they are equal, then I initialize a new array called C, and I keep a variable called total to keep track of the total of the numbers in array 1 and array 2. And Then I use a for loop to iterate over the arrays. I use the index to find their total, and I use the addition operator. And then I append the total to the third array that I created, which will hold the vector sum. And then finally, I print the vector sum. So let's go ahead and run this. So items for list A. Well, let's try 22 and 2. And now I want to exit. Then I want to do 33 and 2. And exit. And there you go. Vector sum of 22, 2, and 33 and 2 is 55 and 4, which is how it should be. So this is it for this video. Now, if you find that you're not understanding the concepts or the logic behind these problems and how I've solved them, then please do go over the previous videos because they will help you a lot. And remember, your solutions don't have to be identical to my solutions. If your solutions give the correct output, then that's perfectly fine. Because remember, in programming, there are many different solutions to the same problem. Thank you so much, and I hope you've learned something valuable.